I'm Cameron. I'm a sophomore at ABAC this semester, and I'm actually not really wanting to teach like in Tipp County.
Okay.
I'm leaning towards, I have family in Effingham,
Gotcha.
and they say that's like a very good school system. So I kind of want to go to the west.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I want to teach social studies too,
Okay.
but I don't know if I want to do middle or high school.
Gotcha.
So that's why I did high school last semester. I'm trying to do middle school this semester.
Okay. Cool.
So,
Well, I'm Jacob Tatum. I graduated in 2007. I went to school at KSU, and I was kind of on the same verge as you, where I didn't know that I want to do high school or do I want to do middle school. And the reason I chose middle school was because doing middle school, I don't know if it's still the same in college, but when I was there, you could do 2 different focuses. So I didn't know if I wanted to do history or if I wanted to do language arts. So I did middle school, so I could do both. And so that's what my degree is, and it is middle school, but it's history and ELA.
okay.
So.
So do you prefer like a direct, guided, or constructivist instruction? Do you like your approach?
I prefer direct instruction. Because and that's what you saw when you were here the other day.
Yeah.
Is it really allows you as a teacher to show the kids your enthusiasm, to lead the discussion, and to show your experiences. Because if they read in the book, they read whatever the editor of the book decided to say, and we read in the book. But then I always take it a step further, and I bring in my experiences. Like if I've traveled to the country that we're talking about, or if I've met someone from there, I'll bring in those conversations, and you don't get that in other types of instruction. So I do guided instruction, and I'll do like individual stuff, but more so I like the direct instruction.
So how important is developing like critical thinking skills and creativity in your students?
I think it's really important, especially in social studies, because it's just a thing that they don't pay attention to. They don't pay attention to their location and what do I do if I don't know where I'm going, and how do I locate things on a map, and just like things that we assume are common sense, those get thrown to the side. And so I don't do it as much with every class as I should, but with a small group of my kids, we do these games every day. And I know you probably know what Wordle is, but we do Wordle. We do Worldle, which is it gives them an outline of a country, and they have to guess what the country is. We play GeoGuessr, which you have to use Google Earth to figure out where you are in the world. I have about 6 boys that I compete with every single day. Like they'll come in here and they'll say, "Have you done this today? Have you done that today? How many did you get it in?" And so we really compete on how quickly we can get those things. So.
And then like what's 2 like activities that you incorporate?
Those that I mentioned. The GeoGuessr, the Wordle, the Worldle. There's one called Flaggle. There's one called When Taken. They have to look at a picture and they have to figure out where the picture was taken and when it was taken. If I could get all of them interested, I would make all of my classes do it every day. Yeah. Even though it doesn't tie to my standards, the boys that do it, like I said, they have become so knowledgeable of the world around us just from the games.
So like, how would you describe like your classroom management and then like tips for my future classroom?
My classroom management is 100% based on relationships. And you see I'm very laid back. I'm not like a super strict, you have to come in and sit down and do that. It's all very relationship based, conversation based. I spend the first 2 or 3 weeks of the school year really building relationships and learning about my kids, about their home lives, what things are they interested in. Because then, like, if you have a kid sleeping in class, it's really easy to get into an argument about a kid sleeping in class. But if you know that kid lives at home with grandma and 8 siblings, there's probably a reason why they're asleep, And so then you can walk over and just kind of tap them and say, "Hey, why are you sleeping? Did you not get sleep last night?" "No, I didn't." "Okay, you can sleep today. Tomorrow I need to be awake." So learning those relationships really helps the classroom management side of things. And then, like, if a kid blows up on somebody or almost gets in a fight, if you have that relationship with them, you can pull them aside and have that conversation and say, "What's going on?" And they'll tell you what's going on versus it turning into a struggle with you. So I think that's the root of it. And my advice is build those relationships as much as you can. Because then, say you end up teaching them in 6th grade, well, as they grow and they have that good relationship with you, they're going to want to come back and see you for different things and ask your advice.
So do you believe like it's a teacher's job to motivate students to learn, and like do you feel like there's like a line where?
To an extent, I think that goes with the relationship building as well. Our job is to motivate and for them to understand that they have a job in the classroom, just like we have a job in the classroom. And if they're not doing their job, their grade's going to suffer. But to an extent, once you've told them what's expected, once you've shown them how to do it, you've modeled it, you've shown them what you expect, at some point they've got to get going. And at some point too, it's going to be home's responsibility to help motivate them too. If you've done everything you can do, they're still not doing it, at some point you got to contact home and say, hey, what can we do collectively to get your kid motivated, to understand what do they need to do to pass and all those things.
And then how does that relate to like students developing their own like sense of agency?
I think once again, just them learning that they have a job, just like I have a job, and learning that if they don't do the job, there's going to be consequences. And so those consequences might be a failing grade, eventually redoing the grade again. And that, I think letting them fail at times and then having them have to retry, that's going to help them build that up.
Yeah. How do you assess students learning like different activities or assessments?
I do a lot of informal assessments. I am a big, I'm not going to get started on that. I have a real personal opinion about like standardized tests and things like that I'm not going to dig into. But as far as like our assessments go in class, obviously, yes, I want my kids to pass the test at the end of the unit. But most of my assessment comes from informal stuff. So when I'm having class discussions, paying attention to who's answering the questions and who's avoiding the questions, calling on the kids that I know are trying to be quiet and see, do they know it, and they're just being quiet, or do they genuinely not know it and are afraid to talk? But I get a lot of my assessment through the discussions and through asking questions and calling on people to read instead of saying, who wants to read and asking for volunteers, but deliberately calling on people to see what they know.
Yeah. And so that the next question, it kind of goes along with it. Like, do you differentiate instruction?
I do. I need to do it more. The only main differentiation I do is between like my on-level classes and my gifted classes. And really more so, they still learn the same content. My differentiation is based on what are my expectations of them, how far in depth do we go. So like, for example, with the Columbian Exchange, with my on-level classes, it may just be very base level. What was the Columbian Exchange? Why do we call it that? What things were traded? For my gifted kids, we may go in depth of, okay, what are the consequences of the Columbian Exchange? With my on-level kids, I do differentiate on like a one-on-one basis with some of them. Like there's some of them that if I know they have a 504 and IEP, if I know they can't, like they might struggle to deliver as much as my others. Well, let's say if I've asked them to write a 5 to 7 sentence paragraph, I may say, okay, you just give me 3 to 5 sentences, and that's just, once again, learning what can they do, what can you expect of them, and kind of meeting them where they are. So.
And then talking about like gifted, what would you say like the biggest? This is my question. What would you say like the biggest differences between the both of the classes?
For gifted, it's really their motivation. Most of the kids that are in the gifted program know that, they've been chosen for that program based on what they've got going on up here, and so when they come in here, most of them know their ability level and know that when they come in, they want to get that job done and move on to the next thing. I also know that those kids will always look for what's next. For my on-level kids, it's like, okay, I'm done. Can I play games now? My gifted kids, they'll say, I'm done. What are we doing next? Can I get started on that? Can I go ahead and do the next thing so I can be ahead of everybody else? So the biggest thing I see with them is their motivation levels.
Okay. If you could give like your college self advice, what would you pay like more attention to?
I would worry less about the lesson planning and more about my classroom management.
Yeah, because my professor, he stresses lesson plans. He's like, you're going to need one every day, and it's very stressful.
I've been teaching for 12 years, and I can tell you I've taught under 3 different systems. I've taught under 5 or 6 different principals, and every principal has been different. Some principals say you have to follow this lesson plan template, and you have to have differentiation, and you have to have all these. But then I've also had principals that as long as you're coming in and doing your job, they don't ask for lesson plans.
Yeah.
So, when I was in college, it was the same way. Hit this template. You have to check all these boxes and do all these things. But then when I got into the real world, the biggest problems I had to figure out were classroom management, parent contact, relationship building. Those were the things that really mattered, not the lesson plan.
What has been like your most rewarding part of teaching?
I think seeing kids grow, seeing them, like in the yearly basis, seeing them come in as little babies from 5th grade into 6th grade, but then at the end of 6th grade, most of them have grown up and they've learned responsibility and they've learned, how to handle drama at school and they're ready to move on to 7th grade. But then, being in the same building with them, you see them again as 7th graders, you see them again as 8th graders, just kind of in passing. And then in the community, when they get to high school, you see them working in stores and, just asking, how are you doing? And so I think just seeing that you played a part in them growing into being a productive citizen. Because, I care that they pass my tests, obviously. Yep. But I care more so that they leave me as a better person, that they've learned problem-solving skills, that they've learned, how to find answers and how to seek help when they need it. And, those are life skills that they're going to need more so than what they might learn in social studies. So.
And then, your most challenging?
Seeing them fail. And failure is a part of life. I mean, that is a part of life. But seeing them struggle, seeing you try to do your best and they still make bad choices. I think about a boy that I've got this year. I've worked on really hard on him behaviorally, and he's gotten really far first semester and second semester. Third semester, he's back to his same first semester stuff, and he's struggling. And I mean, just seeing him fail, seeing him fall and struggle to get back up, that's the hard thing. Because you want to just pick him up and just shake him and say, what are you doing? Figure it out, but you can't. And there's only, and I think the other hard part is you only have them for 8 hours a day. Yeah. And then when they're back at home, it's what hand are they dealt at home? And that's the hardest thing, I think, is wanting to just adopt, wanting to adopt every kid and say, I want to play every part in making you better, but you can't.
Yeah.
So.
And then, what do you think will be a challenge when I'm teaching?
I think just the different groups that you're going to get every year. Every year is a different ballgame, and learning to adapt to that is a hard challenge. The challenges that I had last year are so very different from the kids that I have this year. And I think just learning to adapt and overcome, because in college you get this picture of, okay, every day is going to be the same, and it's not. And every year is going to be the same, and it's not. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And my advice for those challenges is choose your battles. A lot of teachers get burnt out too quickly because they let kids get to them, and they let situations get to them, and they let micromanaging get to them and all those things. But just try to be kind of as laid back and as go with the flow as you can be, because things are going to change. I mean, as government changes, as standards change, as administration changes, the expectations are going to change. And so just kind of roll with the punches and be ready to tackle whatever comes at you.
Well, that's all I got.
Okay.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
For doing that.